I'm gonna go off the bat here and say that I don't talk in any of my videos for a reason. My voice is really annoying to listen to. So this is the first time I'm actually like trying anything like this and actually going to try. And I don't have a microphone. I'm just standing in my closet. But yeah. Let's see how this goes. This is how I draw my stuff. This is for all of my friends who see my stuff and they want to know how I draw it. So yeah, let's go in. I'm also not scripting this because I'm too lazy to put any kind of effort into anything. So yeah. So I'm starting off on paper because sometimes that would help, actually quite a lot. If you can't draw a decent pose or you can't find one online, then just go on paper and sketch out a few different pose ideas. I'm drawing Accelerate for this from a series I'm helping out with. I got the wiki there to look for different pose ideas. But ultimately, I decided to go with the first one I drew. I just took a picture of it. I put it in my Medibang here. Start off by drawing a base layer. You don't really have to do this if you already have a picture like this you drew. I'm just doing this in case anybody wants to do it this way instead. So yeah, just use a color. I usually go with a darker shade of blue. Draw that for just a reference pose and everything. So yeah, just go through, draw it over like that. Just get a decent idea of what you want your pose to look like. Then you want to go on another layer with a lighter color. I usually go with a brighter blue or maybe a green. And just do a base sketch. This is the base layout of what your character is going to look like here. I try to go with a different art style than I normally do with these. But I decided this time I was going to try to make him look a bit skinny. But it didn't really work out well. But in the end, I like how it came out. So just doing that, just get a little idea, base little detail in there to the face. This design for Accelerate is relatively simple, so I pretty much remember what he looks like off the top of my head. I also did an alternate for this, an alt that has the mask on and everything. But yeah, now we're doing inking or outlining. Go another layer, but just pitch black. And make sure the background's a bright color so you can actually see. This normally would probably take the longest. I think this took me just under 30 minutes with the original recording. So you just draw over it. Let's go like this. And you just want to make sure all your lines are nice and clean. Some people like a more sketchy look, and that's fine. But just go with a more sketchy look. Mess around with your lines. Use the select tool and reshape your stuff, like I do here. Just make sure everything is nice and filled in. Some people would use the line tool for some of this. I personally only use the circle tool for the Omnitrix because, drawing circles is extremely difficult. And also for doing the wheels on his feet. Sometimes if you have a line that is difficult to draw and you don't want to erase it without messing up your other lines, do it on a separate layer and then just merge the layers when you're done. I do this with the spheres, the wheels on the bottom here. I just make them a separate layer so I can erase them without messing up the feet. I also use the curve tool to make the tail because it's a bit easier sometimes. Kind of depends on it's really just down to preference. I also use the select tool to shade in some lines here without messing up. Do the same with the wheel here that I did with the other one. Doing some readjusting with the lasso tool. I do a lot of readjusting with the outlines on this one just because it's, just a lot of readjusting with the shapes, try to get them all in a more dynamic pose and style, I suppose. Sorry, not talking much. I don't really have much to say here, just commenting on stuff as I go. Now I go on to coloring, I believe, after I do a few readjustings. And yep. So I select these places that I want to use with the select tool. If you go with the wand and then you just hold shift, then you can select certain things and just select those things alone. So I go ahead and select everything that is going to be white. And then once I do that, I go another layer and I select white and then I darker gray and then I do a gradient. That's how I do my coloring. And here I kind of readjust the wheels after the reshaping. And then for blacks, I just go with pitch black like this. I lower the opacity so I can see it a bit better. But yeah, just go with pitch black on there, and I'll show you what you do with that later. Grab this blue from there. Shade in the face. Fill in some other spaces. Now for the eyes, do those on a separate layer. And then you can do the glow effects, duplicate them, and then set the filter to Gaussian blur. And then sometimes if the glow's not strong enough, duplicate it again. On a separate layer here, you're going to take and select all the black parts, and then you're going to do your highlights to make it look shiny so it doesn't just look like a pitch black void. Go with this strange shade of grayish blue. Just want to make sure that all of your edges have this highlighting on there so that you can tell them apart from the outlines. And also when the black parts like intersect with each other. Like with the head there. And then this is technically part of like the shading process, I guess, once you get into the shiny bits. But yeah. You're going to want to do this. If you're doing a character who has like shiny metallic parts, you're going to want to try to do this with them too. Not with the parts against the edges, just with these weird curvy lines here to make it look shiny. But you're going to want to set the layer option to overlay with white. You're just going to go over the parts you want to be shiny, and then set the color to be white, and then do your shiny bits there, and then set the layer blend to overlay. And then sometimes you might have to duplicate it a couple times to get it to show better. But Accelerate doesn't have that, so I don't bother with it here. Just selecting all of that once again so I can do the shading now, which I do on a separate layer. And then here I set the opacity to 65%, and then I just selected black. And I decided to put the light source behind him, like in the top right-hand corner, so all the shadows are going to be towards the front. And make sure all your shadows make sense when they line up with the light source. And also, any parts that are glowing, you don't want that to be there. I put this under the layer where the glowing parts are going to be, so it doesn't really matter, but still. Don't let parts that are going to glow be covered by shading, obviously. Here I'm just doing a few finishing touches, and I believe we are done. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching this impromptu ramble. And yeah, I'm gonna go and like, I don't know, let's go to sleep now.